All right, hey there, Wade Sellers here, and in this video, we're going to talk about constants and variables. So what are they? First off, in your app, you're always wanting to store some data. It just always seems to come up. You want to store someone's name, or maybe an email address, maybe an important number or date, or a true or false, depending on like a question that you asked, right? You always want to have little parking spots to store information that you can retrieve and perhaps adjust later. Constants and variables are a really easy way to store data in your app. And they work similarly, but they have a very different rule depending on if you use a constant or a variable. So one way to think about it is you have an envelope, right? And inside that envelope is a piece of paper. The envelope usually has a name or an address. For the sake of our code, we usually put a nice title there that is descriptive so we know what is being stored inside of that envelope, right? Or that constant or variable. Inside of it is a piece of paper. On that piece of paper is some data. So that might be the name or the date or an important number or a true or false, right? That's what's going to be stored in there. The difference between a constant and a variable, however, is this. If you use a constant to store some information, once the information is set in that constant, you cannot change that information, okay? So an example might be, this might be an envelope that says number of states in the USA. And inside there would be a piece of paper and the data on it would be 50. Now, it doesn't seem like we're going to change the number of states in the USA anytime soon, right? So that might be a safe one to save as a constant because we don't need to change that number. Now, let's say another example might be you are having a party and you send out a bunch of invitations and you're hoping to get some RSVPs back, some people to attend, right? Friends and family. Now, that number might adjust as people start sending the RSVPs in. So that might be a good time to use a variable. So let's say we have an envelope here and we consider it a variable and we'll call it number of people attending the party. Now, right now on a piece of paper inside that envelope, it says 25. But let's say in a week from now, it becomes 42 people attending the party. Because you saved it as a variable, you can change the information stored in that variable, right? In that envelope. If it was a constant, you couldn't. Once it was 25, it's 25. No more people can attend the party. But since we use a variable, we can change it. So with that being said, that is a very overview of what constants and variables are, and it's a great place to start. So let's get into a playground here. I'm going to show you how to create one, and we're going to play around with creating these constants and variables and storing some information. All right, so now we're at the computer here. So I have Playgrounds open right now, and we're gonna open up something called a Playground book. It's not a full-fledged app, it's this little sandbox where we can mess around with some code and see the results of our code on the other side. So let me just show you how to do that, because it's not obvious. So in Playgrounds, when it's open, I don't have an app open yet, but I'm gonna go to File, New Book. Now, real quick, before I click this, if you are on an iPad right now, then your screen is actually going to look more like the Playground screen right here, and you're going to hit the little button right up here in the little square here that is like Create New, and then in there, you're going to create your Playground book, okay? So real quick, because I'm on my Mac, I'm going to go to File, New Book, and we have what's called a Playground, all right? So you can see click to enter code here, and then if you click this little button right here, and it looks the same on Playgrounds, to open up a little console window, and then later we're gonna click the Run My Code, all right? So this is where you can add code and kind of mess with it along the way. And this is a great spot to show you constants and variables. So let's get to it. Let's use the same examples that I was talking about with the envelopes before we got here. So in order to create an envelope, right, that doesn't have any data in it yet, we're gonna do something called declaring. And all you have to do is set it up like this. So we said we were gonna use a constant for the number of states in the US. To create a constant, you're gonna start with the keyword let. And that's an indication that we're creating a constant. Let's call it number of states in the USA. Number of states in the USA, there we go. And then after this, because I'm not going to put any data in it yet, I have to tell what type of data I'm going to put in there. In the next video, we're going to talk about data types and what types you can put in these, but for now, just kind of follow along. So what I do here is after I give this constant a name, I'm going to do a colon, and then I'm going to say the type of data. I'm going to use an int, which stands for integer, which is a whole number without decimal points. Again, we'll talk about that more in the next video. So right now I have a parking space for information, but I don't have any information there. So I have an envelope with no letter inside, okay? Now let's do one for a variable. For a variable, like the one where we said number of people coming to the party, we do var for variable, and then again give it a title, number of people coming to the party. And again, I'm going to do a colon, and then int. We'll use other data types in the next video, but for now, let's keep it simple. At this point, I have two envelopes, titled, these titles, with no information inside. If I want to put information inside, I can simply retrieve them by saying number of states in the US. And you'll see here in the playgrounds, there's a little autocomplete down here that wants to help me out. And if once it's highlighted blue, I can just tap on it if I'm on an iPad, or just hit enter or tab from my computer, and it'll fill in the rest. This helps us with spelling mistakes. It just keeps us going, moving fast. You'll notice as we continue to learn how to code, you're gonna use tab and enter a lot to let Xcode and the playgrounds fill in the blanks along the way so that you have code that's a little bit cleaner and kind of mistake-free. That takes away the human error. So once I have number of states in the US, I've retrieved that envelope. Now let's put some data inside it. All I have to do is make it equal to, and then something. Well, something right now is an integer, so I can put 50 in there, okay? Okay, how do I know that it's actually in there? Can I prove it some way? You can. We use these things called print statements for that. All you have to do here is just type in print, hit enter, and then put any title for a variable or constant that you have created in between the parentheses. So right now I would just do number of states in the USA. And then down here where you see run my code, we'll click that. And over on the console area, you'll see 50 right there. So it ran the code and it says print whatever data is stored at the constant number of states in the US. And you have it right there. How about the number of people at a party? If we want to adjust, or if we want to set this number, so let's say we got some RSVPs back, I can just do number of people coming to the party, set that equal to, let's say 25 people so far have RSVP'd. Okay, great. Let's print and make sure that it's really there. Number of people coming to the party inside of those parentheses, like I said. Run my code, and now you'll see 50 and 25. So it runs these lines of code in a line as it goes down. So first we set it to 50, and we printed that 50 out. That's right here. And then it goes, okay, set number of people coming to the party to 25, and then print that out, and now you have 25. Now let's say a week goes by and we get 10 more people that have RSVP'd to the party. I can go ahead and adjust it. Number of people coming to the party now equals 35. And let's test it out by printing it. Number of people coming to the party. And let's run it. And now you'll see 50, just like we said, and then we had 25 the first time we set this variable, and now we have 35 the second time we set this variable. So this variable is no longer equal to 25, it's equal to 35 because we've adjusted the data inside. Now, one other thing I want to talk to you about is camel casing, which is probably a new word for you. Camel casing is a neat way that we write longer titles so that they're easier to be read. If you notice the way I wrote these, it's a little special. First off, I have no spaces in the titles for these variables or constants. And I started out with a lowercase number followed by uppercase letters for the first letter of each new word. And it helps to read this. And once you're used to reading these, you can start to read this very, very quickly. So the rule is, when you're setting a name for a constant or a variable, or later when we talk about functions, things like that, you will use camel case for those. So you'll start the first word with a lowercase letter, followed by each successive word, you'll uppercase the first letter. Except for one exception, which is if there is a well-known acronym, abbreviation of some sort, then you can keep that all capitalized. And I show you right here, number of states in the USA. USA is all capitalized because people know what USA is. And honestly, look, like if you see it, it reads pretty clearly. I bet you read it automatically like that because your brain's just naturally used to it. But you'll see, like, if I didn't do that, it would look like this. Number of states in the, you can still see USA, but it's not as easy to read. So that is just the one little exception here. But yeah, you're going to use camel case quite a bit. Let me show you one more trick here. You don't always have to declare it first and then set it second. You can actually combine these steps. Let me show you that real quick. Let me come down here and let's make just a simple example. Let's just say, like, number of tires on a car. Okay, we're going to set it to 4. What we could do here is we could do let number of tires on a car, like this, and then I could actually just set it equals to 4. So I've basically created the envelope and put the data on the letter that goes inside of it all in one step. And you might say, well, why didn't you have to tell it that it's an integer? And that's something called type inferencing, and that's something that I'll talk about a little bit more in detail when you watch the video on data types. I think we have enough in this video. I think you've learned a ton. Get into your playgrounds here, start messing around with setting up variables, setting up constants, setting data, and even see what error you get. Create a constant, and then try to change the data, just like we did with the variable. Try to do it with a constant and see what happens. And with that, I'm Wade Sellers. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.